I found it interesting as an artistic choice, Nate, because you mentioned that poker players are overwhelmingly male, that your hypothetical poker player was a she when you would talk about this, idea of a poker player making a choice. What is behind that? I'm not trying to accuse you of being woke, Nate. I'm not trying to criticize the choice.
Yeah.
I'm just interested in the artistic choice of why. Is this like in Street Fighter? Everybody liked playing. Was it Ryu? I'm trying to remember. It was a popular character. What is behind that artistic choice?
I mean, I think we should have more women poker players. There are some wonderful women poker players, including those that are featured in the book. And yeah, I'm not super woke. I'm not super duper unwoke. But look, I think there are differences on average between the genders, but I think in some ways women might have the better half of the deal as far as poker goes. I mean, having what I call strategic empathy, where you can like size somebody up. Stereotypically women are actually pretty good at that, and they may have better emotional control than men do. So we should have more women poker players. But yeah, look, I have to reconcile with the fact that in this world that I call the river, it's very male. Parts of it are also very white and or Asian. Poker is actually a little bit more diverse ethnicity and racially wise, but it's very male. It's 95 or 97% male at a typical tournament. And like, I don't want to like ignore that. I don't want to shy away from it too much. I want to, I also don't think that you need like a white guy pontificating a whole lot about like race and things like that. But yeah, there are a couple of sections where I tackle the gender discrimination in poker, and then, racial and gender discrimination in Silicon Valley. And then I'm also conscientious of like, of the fact that like, maybe you lean like a little bit heavier into thinking about the representativeness of the characters in the book. But, that might make it like 80-20 instead of 95-5, right? I think it would be misrepresented to say, 50-50. And it just so happens that every one other person you meet is like a woman in this world that's very male, and the maleness is important to the social dynamics of things like, Wall Street bets, that Reddit community, for example, or the poker community. There are things that are like, specifically, competitiveness when men compete against one another is a particular shade of competitiveness that you experience in the river. So I just have to, describe that topic. Well, someone who thinks there actually is discrimination against like women founders, I believe. It's not me being woke. I think it's like empirically the case, right? But it's also the case that probably men on average are better than women at some things. That's also empirically the case. But I'm just trying to strike the right balance.
Well, I should add before I get corrected that apparently the female Street Fighter character everybody likes to play with is Chun-Li, and I have made Ryu a woman. I don't believe that's the case. Perhaps I am woke in doing that. Yeah. I'm not sure about it. Yeah, you listed the 5 reasons why poker is disproportionately male. I felt like the reason that immediately came to mind for me wasn't mentioned in the 5. It was a little bit orthogonally. There's some overlap to what you were saying, and males struggling to have community and friendships, and poker being a way for that. It just seems like the poker lifestyle, from the outsider's perspective, seems pretty lonely. And for whatever reason, lonely lifestyles tend to be taken on more so by men. And there's been a lot of literature on this, and a trucker is more likely to be a male. And that was one of my interpretations. When I was reading about the lifestyle, about the river in that respect, I was thinking, Nate seems very comfortable with this kind of lifestyle, but I feel like there's a little bit of bleakness there and a little bit of harshness there to be one's own gambler. The song "The Gambler" depicts that kind of harsh life. You got to know when to hold him. You got to know when to fold him. The guy crushing out the cigarette and his very rugged lifestyle, and telling the younger man about it. Do you think there's something to that there's a loneliness to that lifestyle? And maybe that's part of the gender dynamic.
I think that observation is correct, that like there's a certain type. I mean, I haven't thought about the gender part of it, but yeah, there is like, it's a grind. I mean, I talked to Jeff Ma, who was on the MIT blackjack team, and of course hosts his own podcast with another sports bettor named Rufus Peabody. And if you've seen the movie 21, which if you're listening to this podcast with Ethan and I, you maybe have, that makes it seem like it's a wild party, right? You go to the club, right? And you have all these women around you, and then you're kind of playing blackjack for thousands of dollars a hand, and you always win, and you're day drinking and taking drugs and things like that. That's not how it really was. I mean, this was long enough ago where like there were barely even nightclubs in Las Vegas, right? Instead, you're going oftentimes to like a casino in Elgin, Illinois, where you're trying to avoid detection from the corrupt local cops, because even though what you're doing is totally legal, maybe they get played off and will tailgate you for a bit if you leave with a big jackpot or things like that. And you're playing all night until there's a dealer change, and then you're kind of taking the red eye home back to Boston and kind of, going to class on 1 hour sleep. It's a grind. In a poker tournament, literally, you keep playing until everyone else is eliminated. The best run I've had in the World Series Poker main event was last year, where I ended up in like 89th or 79th or somewhere in the high two digits out of 10,000 people that started. And you kind of begin to feel like survivor's guilt. All the people have gone home. All your friends that were in the tournament have gone home, maybe left town. They're like starting to like board up the venue by this point. The activity is like dwindling down at this point. It's a kind of very solitary lifestyle. Now, for me, I like it because, 80% of the time I'm talking a lot and writing a lot. I'm kind of very in my like verbal headspace. I mean, I'm in New York. I have a reasonably active social life, I guess, right? I have a partner who is he's a talker. I'm a kind of a quieter. He likes to talk, and we like to talk everything through. So I love the idea for like a few weeks out of the year, I can go to some poker tournament. And if I want, just go to the hotel room, play poker, have as much conversations as I want or not, right? Maybe go with a friend to dinner, or maybe you should get dinner on your own. And like, I like to have that solitude, when I don't get enough of it usually, but to only have that, I think would be pretty difficult. And if I'm being honest, I'm not sure how happy and well-rounded even some of the more successful, objectively poker players are. I think they're a little bit melancholy sometimes.
Phil Hellmuth seems happy in his own weird way, at least by your depiction. At least happy with himself, quite pleased with himself.